You know something I think about a little bit too much? And maybe it's standing outside this PetSmart nearly every day, 4 or 5 days a week. Or maybe it was losing my tiny toes at the beginning of this being homeless, and so I've given so much thought to what would his lived experience have actually been like to have been homeless with me, being a kitten, really. Is the lived experience of dogs. I think about the lived psychic experience of dogs a lot. You know, I grew up reading books where dogs featured heavily because there was a time in the American literary past where men thought that boys needed a relationship with dogs and they weren't allowed one because they were urban dwellers. So they wrote books about dogs. They wrote books about boys and their relationships with dogs. And so I think about dogs. I think about life from the perspective of a dog a lot. Like, there were a lot of movies when I was a little kid and a lot of TV shows that were life from the perspective of a dog. And we think of dogs as loving companions, and that's what we think of them as. And that's what we market them as. We market them as pets, as these unthinking but alive companion. Friendship that has to love you, has no choice, in fact has no biological imperative to do anything but love a human. And so I don't exactly live in a rural area, but I live very close to a rural area, and so I see a lot of people who code rural but live urban lives, and so they keep artifacts, they keep talismans of the rural lifestyle, and one of those is dogs. And so, like, I watch these people bring their dog in and out of this PetSmart, and this isn't a value judgment. This is just something I think about. And these dogs, a lot of these dogs, are the only member of their species they have ever met. And I think about that a lot. What would it be like to be the only member of your species that you've ever met? And then I remember I was listening yesterday to talk about Vikings and about Viking magic and about the Viking slave trade and having black slaves in the extreme north was a common thing. It was in fact something to be very proud of. It meant that you had been to Africa. And so if your pet, if your dog is in some way, because of guys like Jack London, also a talisman of your identity, it's in some way your apparel, because pets, dogs in video games are they're just an accessory. And so if your dog is your accessory, man, what kind of lived experience really is that for that dog to dote on you? What if you had a person in your life whose only responsibility was to dote on you, but you didn't pay them in anything but food? Wouldn't the people around you say that relationship that you have with them is abusive? I lived that way.